Right, so this is a continuation of 2-4 right and linear equations. We're going to be on page 85, so where we stopped last time was looking at how to write the equation of a line in slope-intercept form. We talked about picking 2 points and finding the slope and then maybe plugging that into point-slope form or into y equals mx plus b slope-intercept form and writing the equation of those lines. And we talked about what happens if you've got a horizontal or a vertical line. And so what I want to talk to you about today is what happens with parallel and perpendicular lines. So we're right here at the bottom of page 85. And so they've drawn, right here on the left side in this key concept box, they've drawn parallel lines, and then they've drawn perpendicular lines. These lines intersect at a 90-degree angle. And so basically, here's the rules. If you're going to have parallel lines, their slopes are going to be the same, and their y-intercepts are going to be different. So if we can set something up and figure out that 2 lines have the same slope and different y-intercepts, then we're showing that those lines are parallel. For perpendicular lines, the slopes are what we call opposite reciprocals. The signs are opposite of each other. So this slope is 3, this one is negative 1/3, so we have a positive and a negative, and then we have reciprocal numbers. 3 and 1/3 are reciprocals, whereas, remember, this is like 3/1, so we're just flipping that number. Another way to look at it, if you multiply the 2 slopes together, then your product would be -1. And so you can look at that 2 different ways and figure out that lines are perpendicular to each other. And then, of course, you can just have lines that don't meet at a 90-degree angle and aren't perpendicular, they just intersect. Or you could technically have something that was the same line, and we'll get into that. We're going to pick up now on page 86, and we're going to look at example 4. Example 4 says this: write an equation in slope-intercept form for the line that passes through the point 5, -6, and is perpendicular to the line with this equation, y equals -3 halves x plus 7. So we're not writing the equation for this line, we're writing an equation perpendicular to this line that goes through this point. So we need to still know the same 2 things that we needed to know writing an equation in the first part of 2-4, and that is, what is the slope and what is the y-intercept? Those are the 2 things that we need. Now people go, oh, well, I know the y-intercept is 7. No, that's not necessarily the case, because this is the line that we're using to find our line. So we don't necessarily want this line, all right? So I don't know what the b is, and to be honest with you, it would be simple to go, I don't know the slope, except that we do because of what it said at the bottom of the last page on page 85. Our slopes, or slopes for perpendicular lines, are opposite reciprocal. So I don't have to plug in and find the slope. I've just got to flip this sign and flip this fraction. So the slope of my line is going to be 2/3. This one's positive, our original was negative, and that number is flipped. So I know that 2/3, that the slope of that line is going to make it perpendicular to our original. Now I've got to go solve for b. You can either use point slope or you can use slope intercept and plug in what you know. I'm a slope intercept guy. So here's our equation, y equals mx plus b. We're going to plug in what we know and solve for what we don't. Now remember, they gave us an x and a y that's on our line. That's 5, -6. So let's go plug it in. So the y is -6. The slope we need is 2/3. Make sure that you are not plugging in -3 halves here. We're not talking about parallel lines. We're talking about perpendicular. The x of our line is 5. I don't know the b. So I've got -6 equals. Now 2/3 times 5, just a quick lesson without the calculator. Remember, 2 is a numerator, 5 is a numerator, so I multiply numerators, and I get 10/3 plus b. Now to get b by itself, I need to minus 10/3, right? I need to minus 10/3. So when I do that, these cancel out, and I'm left with b equals. Now, you can get a common denominator here. That's -18/3 is what -6 is, but if you're not good at that, and that's a little bit tricky, I would understand that, then let's go right here. And we're going to do -6 minus, remember, we are putting the fraction in parentheses. I've seen that mistake some. So it gives you that. Go ahead and hit math, enter, and we get -28/3 is our b. So b equals -28/3. If you like to come write it in up here, you can. It's -28/3. We are now ready to write the equation of our line that's perpendicular to this and goes through this point, and it's this. Y equals, our slope was 2/3, so 2/3 times x, and then minus 28/3. There is the line perpendicular to this line that goes through that point. A little bit funky right here, okay, but not a big deal. So that was what, negative 9 1/3? Well, if we were graphing that, we'd go down to negative 9 on our y-intercept and then go just a little below that, about 1/3 below that, and we'd be good. Okay, let's jump into guided practice 4 right here and make sure that we can do the same type problem with parallel lines. So guided practice number 4. It says write an equation in slope-intercept form for the line that passes through the point 3,7. They may give you that data in different ways. They may give you the picture of a line or something like that, so just be careful how you're getting that point. And our line is parallel, so here's our signal for parallel. I should have come up here. We use perpendicular as an upside down T. Okay, so make sure you make note of that. This was perpendicular. This is parallel. Just looks like 11. That's parallel lines. And our line is going to be parallel to y equals 3/4 x minus 5. So what we need to write the equation of a line. So I need the slope and the y-intercept. I don't know the y-intercept. The y-intercept of our line is not necessarily -5. If it's going to be parallel to this, it's not going to be that same line. So it's not going to be -5. But I know what my slope is going to be because on page 85, it tells you what you know about parallel lines. Their slopes are the same. So if I'm going to have a line parallel to this line, then my slope has to be 3/4. Notice we didn't flip the sign. We didn't flip the fraction or take the reciprocal. We took what was there. I don't know the y-intercept, so now we need to plug in what we know and solve for what we don't. What am I talking about? Y equals mx plus b. They gave us an x and a y, or you need to find an x and a y in the problem and plug it in, and you need to solve. All right, here we go. My y was 7. My slope is 3/4. My x was 3. I don't know b. Again, multiplying right here, that's a numerator. A big 3, or a whole number 3 is a numerator. So I've got 7 equals, that's 9/4 plus b. Now we're going to minus 9/4 from both sides. If you're not good at that, 7 times 4 is 28, so that's 28/4 right there. But if you're like, I don't get it, that's okay. Come right here, and we're going to go 7 minus 9/4. We're going to go ahead and get it back to a fraction. Math, enter. We see that it's 19/4. So that's what our y-intercept is. So our y-intercept right here is 19/4. So just a little bit under 5, 4 3/4. All right? So I'm going to come up here, right? All right, I know my b is 19/4, so let's write the equation. Y equals, my slope was 3/4. I write times x, and then this one's positive, so it's plus 19/4. There's the equation that goes through the point 3,7 that was parallel to y equals 3/4 x minus 5. Parallel and perpendicular lines, it's all going to be about what the slope is doing. So this ties into what you were doing in the first part of 2-4, and you should be able to work all of those, mixing them up, changing them up, and be successful at that. As always, if you have any questions, you need to come see me, and we need to get you some help and get it figured out. Thank you.